Malice rarely arrives as a physical blow. Often it takes the form of a quiet voice, calmly insisting that your memory never happened. Cassie and Nathan lived the life of a suburban success story. He was a senior VP at a wealth management firm. She was a marketing director who had transitioned to part-time to raise their 2 children in a 4-bedroom house outside Charlotte. At first, Nathan established control by being helpful. He handled the investments, the mortgage paperwork, and the taxes, telling Cassie to focus on the children because she was so much better at it. He was building a structure of total control while framing it as protection. The shift was subtle. Nathan began treating Cassie with a rehearsed, careful sympathy. He'd ask how she slept with a tone that suggested she looked unwell, and eventually he began suggesting she see a therapist to manage her moods. By stripping away Cassie's financial autonomy and questioning her emotional stability, Nathan was positioning himself as the only competent adult in the room. At 34 years old, Cassie began to believe her memory was failing. She was constantly exhausted, doubting her own basic ability to function. Small things vanished. Plans she knew she'd made were suddenly non-existent. When she asked about a missing household item, Nathan would tell her she had returned it days ago, looking at her with a concern that made her doubt her own senses. She started documenting her life in a leather journal, not because she suspected Nathan, but because she was terrified she was experiencing a medical or mental decline. Nathan used this fear to push for a specific outcome. He wanted her in therapy, ensuring there was a professional record of her supposed instability. The strategy of gaslighting succeeds when a person ignores their own senses in favor of the version of events repeated to them every day. 18 months into this period of self-doubt, Cassie was cleaning the shared home office on a Thursday afternoon. In the pocket of an old laptop bag, she found a single piece of folded paper that changed the context of the last 2 years. It was a checklist in Nathan's handwriting. It began with a woman's name, Lauren, followed by a timeline for a divorce. The items included getting Cassie's therapist on record and checking with a lawyer to ensure the house stayed in Nathan's name. Standing in the office with the note, the previous 18 months began to rearrange themselves. The fear that her mind was failing was replaced by the cold realization that her confusion had been a deliberate project Nathan was managing. Seeing her name as a line item in a project plan provided the evidence she needed to stop fighting herself. The problem was no longer her memory. It was the man in the other room. Cassie decided to play the role Nathan had written for her. For the next 4 months, she acted increasingly fragile and dependent, feeding his ego while she worked on a counter strategy. Using a burner phone and working only while away from the house, she hired a family law attorney and a forensic accountant to look into the finances Nathan had kept hidden. The accountant uncovered evidence of dissipation. Nathan diverted marital assets into a secret brokerage and a joint savings account with Lauren. Cassie gathered digital timestamps, tracking hotel receipts and text messages from a family tablet, documenting his affair and his divorce timeline. Cassie used Nathan's confidence in his own scheme as cover. She built her entire legal case while he believed he was still steering her toward a predetermined exit. On a Sunday morning, Nathan sat Cassie down and requested a divorce. He was gentle, claiming he was worried about her mental health and that a separation would be better for her well-being. He handed over a settlement that would have left Cassie with nothing. He cited her documented instability to claim primary custody of the children and argued the house belonged to him alone. Cassie cried, maintaining the performance of a woman who was overwhelmed. In reality, she was waiting for the moment she could hand the entire file to her attorney. Nathan assumed Cassie was exactly where he'd spent 2 years placing her, fragile, confused, and incapable of reading the paperwork clearly. During a phone call with Nathan's lawyer, Cassie's attorney presented the forensic ledger, the evidence of dissipation, and the synced text messages. Nathan's narrative of a fragile wife collapsed under the weight of his own financial records. The consequences extended to Nathan's career. His firm discovered the undisclosed brokerage accounts, leading to an internal review regarding fiduciary conflicts. Nathan was placed on administrative leave and eventually lost his job. Cassie kept the house and secured primary custody. Relieved of the energy required to fight Nathan's manipulation, she returned to work full-time and landed a director-level role at a new company. Nathan is now in a junior role at a smaller firm, and his relationship with Lauren ended shortly after his financial assets were frozen. When someone spends years trying to rewrite your reality, you don't owe them any guilt when you use the facts to dismantle theirs. No, not even a little bit.